Welcome to the
All
Gilchrist
right. Okay.
Experience.
All right. There it is.
Today's February 4th, and it's the anniversary of Amadou Diallo murder. Graham, you were there. You're the chief investigator. But I'm going to run this video. Let's see how it plays. I'm trying something new. I couldn't get the.
I was on the line with Kadiatu Diallo when Winston called me, and I was thinking we were on at 4 o'clock.
How's she doing?
Well, she's a mother, and
I understand that.
the reflection is hard.
How
It's
many
very
years
hard.
now? How many years?
22.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, he has the rolling. He's doing it.
Yeah. I don't know why his face is in the. He's got his face in the.
Suspicious. He looks like me.
Let's together and lead us to justice for this child. Many rest in peace, and I thank everybody. Thank you very much.
Be right back.
The journey I took to go back home with the body of Amadou was a very painful journey for me.
When you feel that you are sitting in the aircraft and your son is like just a body in a casket, it's not a good feeling. It's very traumatic and painful. Upon arrival at the airport, everybody came there to receive us. I felt comfort in that.
We came to Guinea for Amadou's funeral. I've been trying to remember exactly when we met Jesse, and it keep drawing a blank because it seemed like he wasn't there 1 second, the next second he was with us. We were looking for Amadou's Guinea.
That was September 16th, 2018. What do you think? Bring back memories, Graham?
Yes, I remember it all too well. I was in Amadou's apartment that morning. And ironically enough, I was just talking to Kadiatu a few minutes ago. And a difficult day for her. And with the foundation, I'm on the board with her, and we're working on enabling students to complete their education, which was what he was doing. And Amadou was not a street vendor who didn't understand English. He spoke 5 languages. He had completed school in Thailand and in another country and came here to further his education. A well-to-do family. He had been in Thailand with his father, involved in business and trade. So these are not some poor immigrants that came here. They are economically better off than most of the people living in this country. But I remember standing in that doorway that morning and looking at all the bullet holes. I ultimately did an analysis of the bullet holes in the doorway. Amadou was shot through the soles of his feet. He was shot from point blank range by Sean Carroll, who stood at the top of the stairs there on the stoop and fired directly at him. And these murderers said that Sean Carroll said the bullet seemed to have no effect on him. This is what they think about Black people. We're superhuman. We're dangerous. There's no way in the world that you can get hit with a 9mm round and you're just standing there. The round is moving at 1,380 feet per second coming out of the muzzle of the gun. And if a person were to poke you in your chest, you're going to move. Imagine something moving at 1,380 feet per second. But all of the bullet holes in that vestibule showed me that the shots were fired from two directions, from straight on and from a 45-degree angle. And if Amadou had retreated into the vestibule, there's no way in the world the guys down on the sidewalk could have been shooting at him in the vestibule, because all of their bullets were fired at a 45-degree angle towards the right door jamb. That's where he was standing. He never reached for a beeper, a phone, or anything. My subsequent independent investigation, I found two witnesses to the shooting, or one rather. And there were federal agents surveilling the people that these cops were engaged with prior to the shooting. They were in a black Mercedes with diplomatic plates and a red Camaro. Amadou saw something he shouldn't have seen, and as a result, he was murdered. And the occupants of that vehicle with the diplomatic plates and the red Camaro, they drove off as the cops gunned him down in that doorway. That is how Amadou was murdered.
What do you suspect happened? Why were they there?
We don't know. And there was no intent to find out. I presented the information to the FBI. I had a contact working in the Justice Department on that case at that time. And he told me point blank, they don't want to prosecute these cops. Robert Johnson, the DA, was also a problem. His staff, they were a problem because none of them wanted to do the case. And I've made that very clear over the years with regard to the poor administration of the Bronx District Attorney's Office under the direction of Robert Johnson. So these guys got away with murder. Sean Carroll went on to become a sergeant in NYPD, and he retired about 1.5 years ago. Two of them went to the fire department. A good friend of mine was at the fire academy, and he refused to teach them. He said he was not going to teach murderers. But, you know, this was an international event. I was summoned by a group of African merchants whom I had met the week before. And they asked me to come to the Bronx because one of their people had been gunned down. I did not know Amadou, but they knew him. And that morning we were pouring libation and eating out of a common bowl in his apartment. Reverend Sharpton, myself, Kwame Nkrumah's nephew, and one other person was there. And another interesting fact on this case, Amadou lived with his cousin. After the shooting, the officers went into his apartment. They searched the entire apartment and found nothing other than his Quran, a Bible, his prayer mat. No contraband of any kind. They then asked his cousin who might have wanted to kill his cousin.
Right.
And they took him to the precinct to garner information. It was not until his cousin returned home that afternoon that he found out that these were the people that killed his cousin. So they were trying to put together a scenario where they could falsely accuse somebody of having killed Amadou. Had there been anybody that said, well, I had a fight with him, I had an argument with him, they would have gone out and locked them up and falsely accused them for the murder. This is what NYPD was doing at that time. And I want you to know that it's not uncommon. I saw similar behavior when Desmond Robinson was shot in the back by Peter Del Debbio under the administration of Rudolph Giuliani. And they sought to tamper with the evidence. That shooting, I had that case. I was with the Transit Police Major Case Unit. I had that shooting. And they were trying to destroy evidence in the case by taking Desmond's clothes and trying to pick melted shards of lead that were in his jacket in the precinct. And I had to let a captain and a sergeant know if they didn't get out of the room, they were going to get locked up, beat up and locked up. So they would do anything to protect the false imagery of NYPD.
What do you think happened? What do you think about these federal agents? Did you get anything?
I was never able
Close
to
data?
ascertain who that was, which agency was doing the surveillance. I don't know if it was DEA or another agency.
But
Their
what
job was to maintain the eye on their suspect, and they don't get involved in local matters. So they were driving past the shooting as it was happening. They had to maintain the eye, what we call the eye or the surveillance of the occupants of the other two cars, primarily the occupants of the car with the diplomatic plates.
So we never got a lowdown on what they were doing there that time of night.
No, it was a clandestine meeting, but we don't know what it was about.
Because it's a residential area. It's not the project, and it's a nice suburban looking housing street.
Well,
Home.
there are row houses on that block.
Row
I
houses,
remember
right.
Wheeler Avenue, and
It's quite a nice
there was
neighborhood.
a fellow. I'm sorry.
It's quite a nice neighborhood.
It's a block from the subway, and there was a guy, if I remember correctly, a Latino fellow who also witnessed it. And the police invariably, they told him, "You talk too much, you're going to get a dirt bath." Well, a dirt bath is a grave. That's what a dirt bath is. I interviewed a woman who witnessed the shooting from the opposite side of the street, and she was hiding behind a car. So they did not see her. When I interviewed her, we have her on video, and she was still shaking 3 days after the shooting.
Sure.
She was an African woman, an immigrant, and deathly afraid that something could happen to her. So we protected her identity. The FBI asked me how I got the information. I simply said, Macy's doesn't tell gimbals. I said, I'm giving you the information. Do what you have to do with it. And they did nothing with it.
Give me a minute, guys. Talk amongst yourself. I'm going to try to get another roll
Question.
of Mrs. Diallo. All right.
Yeah. Yes, Leroy, you were saying something?
The question I have is, what the 4 police who did the shooting, what were they doing in that area? Were they, the kind of guys that come out of Randall's Island, they just roam the area, or were they at a specific precinct?
They were part of the notorious street crime unit. And if you remember, their motto was, "We rule the night." I believe Amadou was the inspector, or Chief Amadou was in charge of the street crime unit, and he had formerly been in charge of Manhattan North. And there were many issues with regard to how Manhattan North was being run and the drugs that were being stolen from drug dealers in Washington Heights. And they had even approached the Amsterdam News about doing an article about it, but Bill Tatum refused to do it. He didn't want to get involved. But Amadou was the chief of Manhattan North at the time that was going on. So he went from there to the street crime unit. I also want to note that Amadou's nephew is the officer that killed Anthony Baez. And he had about 14 prior civilian complaints prior to him killing Anthony Baez. So,
what are you talking about?
Chief Amadou, who was in charge of the street crime unit. So I had a meeting with Rudolph Giuliani, Howard Safer, and First Deputy Chief Kelleher in Giuliani's office a few days after the shooting. And Giuliani asked me, he said, well, Weatherspoon, what's this meeting about? I said, it's about your commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Ask him when was the last time he spoke with Charles Hines. Now, Charles Hines was the Brooklyn district attorney, and Giuliani wanted to know what Charles Hines had to do with the shooting of Amadou Diallo. I said he had everything to do with it. It's all intertwined. And Safer said, well, I spoke to him whatever day it was. I said, and tell the mayor why you spoke to him. He said, well, Kenneth Boss has an open shooting in Brooklyn.
Mm.
Kenneth Boss had murdered Patrick Bailey on Sheffield Avenue in East New York on October 31st, 1997.
6.
That case went to the Homicide Bureau. And Charles Hines told the Homicide Bureau of his office to put that case on the back burner. I know that for a fact because I knew somebody working in the DA's Homicide Bureau, one of the assistant DAs. So that case was backburnered for 15 months. It did not come off the shelf until the same officer, Kenneth Boss, killed a second black man, namely Amadou Diallo.
I mean, he's the one that shot the most.
Yeah,
Boss.
I was at Patrick Bailey's funeral when he was
How many bullets did he shoot?
I don't remember.
It was 2.
But there were 41 shots reported fired. There were 40.
You found 2 more.
I found 42 and 43 a week after the shooting. I found one round in the door jamb at the front of the house, and I found another round in Amadou's kitchen. It went through the door, through the front door, down the hall, and just over the entrance door, and was lodged in the wall in the kitchen. So there were 43 rounds shot, but when they realized that Kenneth Boss had now killed 2 black men in 15 months, and the first one that he killed, that issue had not been addressed, there was a panic. And I said to Giuliani, I said, so let's see. You have a commissioner that didn't take a cop off patrol, but allowed him to be transferred from the 75th precinct to street crime. He's now killed 2 people. And how will this look when people find out that you have a cop that's killed 2 black people in 15 months and the DA on the first case hasn't addressed it? So summarily, Charles Hines did a whitewash. And he took it upon himself to state that the shooting of Patrick Bailey did not merit a grand jury hearing. So there was no hearing.
All right,
but he
Graham,
rendered that judgment after Amadou was murdered.
I want to bring in the female aspect to it. I'm going to play the show we did with Amadou. Mrs. Diallo, you'll enjoy this. And I want Mary to give the female, I see your reactions, Mary, to all this whole thoughts. I mean, these are things that you didn't know about. But you have to see this woman struggle. I think this is the first time she spoke in public. I think this is the clip where first time she speaks in public. So let me play this clip for you.
We can't hear it.
Really, that was an example you gave me to how you stood so tall, and I was there from the beginning. And I want to show you a piece with Mrs. Mother Bailey. All right?
Yes.
I want to show you how much you impressed me. I saw in you as a mother and parent. And Mrs. Barr, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because this has to be seen. Because you see you stand tall and
fight the way you fought, the way your good battle that you fought, is because of your lack of hate.
Yes, thank
Your
you.
love energy brought us all through this. And you are a shining example to me that hate doesn't pay.
Doesn't
But I see
pay.
you 16 years later and you, you
You
know?
can only hate like is like a poison.
Mhm.
Like if you drink something like a poison, it will
Right.
destroy you. Sometimes even people that you may think that you are hating will not even know
Mhm.
you are in this black hole.
Right.
You gotta make sure that you grow out of pain without hate. I remember when I go out to speak in the country, people sometimes they are surprised. They say, "Why you are not angry? Where's the anger?"
Right.
And I tell them, I am positively firm in seeking justice,
That's right.
not giving up, but not having any kind of animosity.
Mhm.
Not revenge, not any animosity, but seeking justice. Because this is the only way I believe I can get my sanity
Amen.
and continue to live through this.
Let's watch Mother Blakely and play this piece for me. I love this.
As I have spent time with the grieving warrior spirit, that's what she is. And with the warrior brave father, that's who he is. And having the vision of a son through consciousness that will shout on us. A visionary will not only mark his time through a legacy that carries, but also he's a warrior brother for peace. When I say to you, no justice, no evil, is a human rights cry. It is not just a cry to just be crying, it's a human rights cry. And what I would like to leave the family through the spirit of Queen Moore. The legacy is left to me. The bloodline to Sister Winnie Della, which I met with Winnie about a month ago at the airport, and we sat there and talked for 2 hours. She was waiting to board a plane. And the first subject that we're talking about here in this room is what the sister discussed. So the womb of our women is giving up. And as Queen Mother has left lines to Sister Rita Marley, and the spirit of Yahweh Messiah Magadi, Queen Mother was a Gandhiite. Queen Mother was about the family, the man and woman, and that was her spirit for us in terms of sisterhood. And if we take this journey tomorrow, it is not a sad journey. Right. It is a divine journey. Well, and with this divine journey from our warrior child, our crown prince, I call him our crown prince. A crown prince who understood that there was a higher being than just the natural forces of life. As Mama and I was sitting on his bed, and we decided to check out one thing in the room, because I'm a curious and a curious Queen Mother. And I'm inside his luggage as I looked around in the room. And what I find inside, I shared with Mama and Baba. Where are you, Baba? I shared with the folks of them. Look what we have here. And inside revealed what he was doing in his own consciousness in the wee hours in the secret corner of his room. And in that suitcase, there we discovered books. Books, type of books. And inside of that suitcase, science and technology, mathematics, computer science. And then as we continue to pull and tug at his little bag, the three of us, discovered something else. His spiritual life was in bags. He carried it full time. And then a rug, his prayerful rug, which is a worn out rug, which you have to use it. The same as he used his book. They used the human touch, the human smell was on the rug. And mommy grabbed it. She said, for 3 years, I haven't touched my son, but I want to smell him. And she said, then she pulled the rug, and she smelled a prayerful rug of her son. She said, mother, I want to hold him. I want to smell him. He's not been in my care for 3 years. I said to my and to Papa, let it go. Let it go. You are blessed parents. Come from your womb, a blessed child. Because God came first in his life. Allah came first in his life. And Mother opened up. She opened up the book about prophecy and divine spirituality. And little note he wrote and left to us. And the note talked about Abraham and Abraham being a warrior for peace. So he's a crown peace brother, a crown peace child, a crown peace son. And as we move to the past, all of us I can say.
That is so powerful that, and
Oh man. Ah, what they do to me?
You're here.
Ah, what happened?
Nothing happened. You're fine. You're fine.
Well, guys, what do you think?
It's a throwback.
Let's hear from the other mother. Mary? Unmute. That was quite a bit to sit through.
Yes, it's as Graham has pointed out, it's a lot to swallow. It is a throwback. And the question is, where do we go from here? Nothing much has changed, just the calendar.
Right.
Little modifications to the situation, but the basics are still the same. Our Black men and our Black women are still being murdered. And if it was not for the technology that we have today, so many more murders would go unaccounted for, and no one would really know what's going on. And the ones that do will cover up because it's a part of their agenda. It's a part of annihilating us. I don't know if it comes from fear or if it comes from the sense of superiority for us as Black people, but it still exists. And I do know the pain of a mother losing a child. No, the years don't change that pain. And when you witness the testimony of other mothers that talk about what they've gone through, you sit and you hold your heart for fear that your heart will crumble and dissipate. So you try to hold on to your heart to send to them, to tell them that there is a God. And one day we will see justice for our children in some of the justice that we hope to see for those that have just recently, in 2020, and even in 2021, whose lives have been taken from hate, murder, or just people just don't care under the disguise of a badge or authority. So it's real. And 22 years does not make a difference. It does not ease the pain. All it does is say, to me as a mother, I'm being patient and I'm waiting on the Lord to bring justice.
Mm-hmm. Leroy?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be a guest on your show. I tend to look at these things from a historic standpoint, what happened before in the chain of events. And I'm reading a book, Bullwhip Days. Bullwhip Days. It's the narratives of our people who were out of slavery after the 1865. And the execution of Amadou Diallo is no different than our people being murdered on the plantations in the South or on the roadways in the South during the time of slavery or after. And it's a pattern that speaks to the nature of the situation that we're dealing with. Coming forward, I'm intrigued with how 4 police can get out of a car. 2 had to get out of the car on the street side, and 2 had to get out of the car on the sidewalk side, and they did a firing squad on the brother. How they wound up in that area at the same time that the FBI was surveilling someone is that is the kind of scenario that you see in some of these detective stories.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and when we do it, when we come up with a rationale, they call it a conspiracy theory. But we have to come up with those possible schemes in order to uncover the schemes that they perpetrate on us. And Brother Graham gave a good insight into Charles Hines, who was brought into office by
Yes.
Sharpton and Maddox in the what was that case, Brother Graham?
Tawana Brawley.
No.